Welcome back to the Milwaukee Mile. For the second straight year, the eNASCAR qualifying iRacing series heads back to West Allis, Wisconsin as one of the final three races on the schedule. The 12th race of 2024 brings the drivers back to this 1 mile circuit, and with a lot on the championship table still on the line, the bubble battle separate by only 2 points and more than 60 drivers still registering at the very tail end of the season, tonight is shaping up to be yet another exciting event in Road to Pro action. Welcome back live on FTN. I'll be producing behind the board. I'm David Kreutz, commentating alongside eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Daniel Falkingham. Last year, we broadcasted at this circuit, and it was a very similar event in length. Of course, the trucks at Milwaukee for 100 laps. Now, tonight, things could be different. We're hearing the trucks have been refreshed, and this track has been too, so a different attitude of racing might come into play. Now, as drivers take to the track for their practice laps just before qualifying begins, most of the field is settled in as we saw them last week, hoping to come back off the coattails of a red-hot Brian Mercurio. Dan, we're back in Milwaukee. It's been almost a year ever since we went here, but it's great to return. How do you feel as we head back to the mile?
Absolutely. Well, so much history here at the Milwaukee Mile, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of action we're going to see here tonight for Road to Pro. So these trucks are going to be a handful. Dirty air is going to be key. You want to have as much clean air as possible. Traffic's going to be an issue, and from what I've been hearing, if we have a long green flag run, this group could widen out maybe 2, maybe even 3 lanes. So we got a great race ahead of us tonight, and I'm looking forward to get started.
And we're looking forward to getting the action going right here and now. As we take a look trackside, qualifying is currently on the way with many a driver taking their laps. 30 drivers are registered in this split using the snake split format, and many familiar faces have yet again returned. So keep your eyes peeled on a lot of recognizable drivers. Looking right now at Quentin Warman among many others, and there's Matthew Morton who's in the session right now on the track. There's last week's winner, Brian Mercurio. And of course, for the driver, the number 41 and his team, EPI, they did an amazing job winning in both splits, and there's really not much better it can get than how Brian did in Watkins Glen just a week ago. I wouldn't really expect that level of dominance today, but everything's possible. I'll tell you this much, Brian in a really good position to make it up to that top 20 and move on to contender.
Very much so. Coming in, I believe, in a 3-way tie for second place with fellow teammates Eddie Kerner and Michael Fritsch. So he's feeling pretty good in the point standings right now, and if he goes on and win tonight, or even have maybe a podium finish, he's looking pretty comfortable with his points buffer to go to the Contender Series for the second straight year. And yeah, also got some other names we need to shout out as well, like Agno Phillip. He's in here. He had a podium performance at Watkins Glen. He is the points leader coming in tonight with a full race buffer, 40 points ahead of the cut line. So he's right now sitting the most comfortable out of everybody. And if he can go on and win this race or even have a podium finish, just like I mentioned with Mercurio, he looks like he'll be well on his way back to the Contender Series once again. So a lot of storylines coming in, a lot of point situations we're going to be talking about. And right now, Brian Mercurio, top of the chart as I speak.
Well, very similar for Brian right now, back up to the top of the board. Chris Pfeffer, who did a real good job at this track, well, he did so last year. He's in second with Jackson Crowder in third and Quentin Warman there in fourth. Tonight's a do-or-die race for some drivers, such as Justin Smith, and we talked about the championship standings coming in. The battle is close not only for the bubble, but to stay alive. If you're beyond the top 50 right now, you're not in a good position because 30 points is almost a death sentence when it comes to deficit. Now, for the drivers who are above and below, just barely the championship picture, 2 or 3 points doesn't mean anything too crazy. So most of the field still has a chance to make it into contender, but there's always the bottom 15 or 20 who already we're starting to see drivers calling it quits on their season early. We don't want to see any more. With the minute remaining, it looks like now 28 drivers have taken a time. We're only waiting on Tanner Love and Dylan Jones.
Yeah, and Dylan Jones, you speak of him, he is the cut line right now, only 2 points ahead of Andrew Navarro, which to me is a really big surprise. We've seen how strong he's been the last several years, made a contender each of the last 2 seasons, and right now he's the first guy out, sitting in 21st, 2 points back. So for Andrew Navarro, he needs to have a strong night. I don't believe he's in our split tonight. He's in the other split with our boys at McConey Entertainment, but for Andrew Navarro, he needs a really strong run tonight to get himself back above that cut line. But we got other guys like Christopher Hill, Jack Coyne, Michael Venable, Dalton Malone, and many others that are below that cut line that are looking for a really that are looking to bounce back, where they may have had a rough Watkins Glen, where thankfully there's no more road courses they got to worry about. It's just 3 ovals here in Milwaukee, Rockingham, and Homestead to end the season. So with qualifying wrapping up, these boys are ready to go, and looks like Brian Mercurio, Chris Pfeffer is going to be our front row coming to the green flag.
This is our final 1 mile circuit on the schedule, as you mentioned, Dan. All 30 drivers are going to take a time. You'll see Ryan Andrew and Nick Miller all the way at the tail end of the qualifying grid tonight. He finished in first last week. He's starting in first tonight. Brian Mercurio is going to grab the pole position here in Milwaukee. And so it's time, just about time indeed, to move on to our 100-lap main event. The iRacing pace car is with us, and the starting grid is due to join us any moment there. You can see the back of the field coming together, but let's first talk about the starting grid from top to bottom. And of course, where else to start but Brian Mercurio in the number 41. It'll be Brian with the pole position yet again after his victory at the Glen, looking to go for what could be 2 consecutive race wins, and alongside him will be Chris Pfeffer in position number 2. Third place, then on back, you'll see the driver, the number 23. Well, it's going to be Jackson Crowder, 22nd when it comes to his iRacing number, shall we say. And Quentin Warman will be in 4th, with concluding the top 5, Justin Smith, a driver in desperate need of a very solid championship run. It's going to be Michael Frisch then in 6th, and you look back to a driver like Agnel Phillip, who's going to be in 7th. Alexander Russell's going to be in 8th, and to round out the top 10, Ethan Lane and Dalton England, who are going to be 9th and 10th, respectively.
Going down to row number 6, we have Matthew Morton and Michael Bumgarner. And then we go down to row 7, starting 13th and 14th. We have James Wenzel and Johnny Avila. Then we have Carson Bowers, he's in a rough point spot coming in tonight. He needs a strong run. He'll roll off 15th alongside River Hayes. Kane McClenny, Jack Coyne, someone I mentioned just a little minute ago, where he's in a tough points battle, but he's right there at the cut line. He needs a big night. He starts 18th. And then we got Matt Danson, Tanner Love, David, he's going to round out the top 20.
And then from there, the final drivers are going to be just beyond. Jack Mace, who didn't have that impressive of a Watkins Glen race, definitely going to need a rebound after what he said was a wasted opportunity at a top 10. Channing Ballew going to be there in 22nd, and you go back to 23rd, and that's going to be Garrison Hogan. And further on back from there, you see the number 24th spot occupied by Trevor Huff. Then beyond Huff, you'll see 25th place in Ashton Schleiss. Caden Rush will be in 26th, with Dylan Jones in 27th. Santiago Tires in 28th. Final 2 drivers on the day, Ryan Andrew and Nick Miller. Andrew going to be in that 29th spot, and Miller 30th and last of all those in the field tonight. We do not have our last year 2023 FTN split winner with us, Spencer Kostowitz, so on this channel anyway, we're bound to get a brand new winner here at the Milwaukee Mile. Familiar faces, though, at the head of the field in a track that has so much racing history, more than a century in operation. The Milwaukee Mile is seen since 1903, but in this current configuration, it's been this way since 1956. Former home to NASCAR Truck Series events until very recently returning just 2 years ago. And to kick off Milwaukee weekend here in the NASCAR world, the best virtual drivers looking to make a chance, of course, for a more than $100,000 prize pool. They're back in action tonight. Brian Mercurio won in dominant fashion at Watkins Glen and is looking to keep the good times rolling in that number 41. The pace car will drop down and in this time through, and EPI's flagship driver will be the man at the helm as Barney the Flagman will wave him green. We're underway from Milwaukee. Welcome back to the mile in West Allis, Wisconsin.
Going to turns 1 and 2, Mercurio, he is going to clear for the lead ahead of that Altus driver, Chris Pfeffer. And then you got Jackson Crowder. He's going to look to the inside, but he's not going to quite get there. Pfeffer will clear down in front of Crowder. And now we have side-by-side between Crowder and Quinton Warman. He's making a challenge around the outside, as Mercurio is going to come off turn 4 and lead lap number 1, but they're getting crazy here in the middle of the field.
And Brian Mercurio, you mentioned it, Dan, he's got himself the race lead. He's got himself, give or take, a track or a card link to work with a clean track just ahead. Side by side for a few drivers like Alexander Russell up top trying to make it work. He got by Ethan Lane right there, and it looks like he's been just ahead of the number 14 with points leader Agnel Phillip thereby in position number 7. Top 10 remains relatively similar. No big movers so far, but that's to be expected at a track like Milwaukee. However, tonight we're going to talk about the possibility possibility that things change big time as the back of the field, Tanner Love and company, they are getting a little bit close to each other. Jack Mace is still going to be in 21st, but it looks like a bubble of 2 wide and maybe 3 wide racing to kick off the day. Drivers desperate to make moves are going to try to find a way to get that multi-groove action back into play. But so far, a lot of the Nexus drivers alongside each other, and they haven't been able to make much of it in getting back into line. Just ahead of James Wenzel, there's Matthew Morton, a man who's got a fight on the bubble. Single file for now, Dan, but we talked just before the race about maybe the chance that things will be different today than what we usually see at the mile. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on and what we might see at the track in those long runs?
Yeah, for sure. As you see everyone right now, just running it's plain and simple, black and white. Everyone's just fighting for the bottom, trying to just wrap that white line, wrap the rumble strip on the bottom of the racetrack, the shortest and quickest way around for right now on fresh tires. But as more rubber gets laid down and as the tires build up heat and they start to wear out, this groove might widen out a little bit with this oval refresh that has been implemented since the start of the year. So I'm really interested to see if it's going to widen out, and if it does, how much is it going to widen out? We can maybe see a second groove, we can maybe see a third groove. So we're just going to have to wait and see how much is going to widen out, but right now, everyone is fighting for the bottom, trying to preserve their tires.
It would be quite exciting to see maybe something more than the bottom line, but we just started here, and in all honesty, there's a lot of time still remaining, and Brian Mercurio is sure to use it wisely. Winner at Watkins Glen, and as long as he gets himself with top 10, top 15 finish today, he should be effectively locked in a contender, although he's looking for much, much more, of course, more. He's finding himself up in front of the field, the top 10 remaining relatively static. Biggest movers right now are going to be guys like Johnny Avila, 14th up into 12th, and maybe a few more to speak of. There's going to be 19th to 17th in Matt Danson, but nobody quite surprising so far who's moved up. Moving a little bit further back, River Hayes is there, 16th to 23rd. -7 on the board so far for River. Not a good way to kick this one off, and falling backwards with 3 races to go. In any event, he's bad news if you're not firmly locked in. So for River, not the best position to be in, and we'll see whether or not he can maybe recover and put himself back in a better spot. But right now, Hayes does find himself 53rd and is almost on that 30-point border where it's going to become even trickier to get back into the picture. He's 29 points under your current points leader, so not going to be easy, but there's of course a possibility he can recover. Tonight, he cannot settle for 23rd. He couldn't even settle for 16th, and he's still dropping back a little bit further with guys like Trevor Huff approaching.
Yeah, for someone like River Hayes with this point situation right now, he can't settle for pretty much anything less than a top 5 tonight. It's either a top 5 or bust, or maybe even a winner bust, because he is so far out of the points right now. He's had a rough last 2 races, only scoring 9 points at each of the last 2 races at IRP and Watkins Glen. So if he needs a big night tonight, or it's pretty much going to be curtains for River Hayes and that machine for the rest of round 2. But for right now, we got a little bit of side-by-side action behind these guys, which I believe is Caden Rush and Ashton Slice. Caden Rush trying to make that outside groove work further down the field, and he's trying to make it to good use.
Well, take a look at Caden working that double-sided middle groove, shall we say. He's trying to keep it as low as possible, but at the same time, if you want to make moves, you cannot stick in line forever. And I think at this point, drivers understand that, and look at that. Caden surging on the high groove here. That's the pass for 25th on the order. Might not be all too much so far, but one position could lead to maybe that steamrolling of momentum, and laying down the rubber in the middle groove could help everyone out. So Caden makes the move. Now his next target would be Trevor Huff, and Rush right now going to find himself in the outer confines of the top 25. It's single file basically all throughout the pack for now. 10 laps in out of 100, and we talked about the fuel window. These drivers will have to go down a pit road at least once. Their window should come out to give or take 80 laps at the very most, which means it wouldn't really make sense to go all the way. That would be impossible. Instead, we might see drivers come in anytime between 50 and 80, although most likely see them splitting the race in half, or maybe going 3/4 away into the stint. You don't want to burn up your stuff and then run slow lap times. That time around, Brian Mercurio running a 30.566 compared to his qualifying time. That was a full second off, so starting to see that degradation in the tire, even for the drivers who are running the best of the field so far. And even for the guys in the mid-pack, it's even more extreme. Agnew Phillip running a nearly 31-second lap on that go-around.
Yeah, these lap times very even so far, but of course for Brian Mercurio, probably run the fastest lap so far out of anyone, just enjoying that clean air out front. And right now pulling a 3/4 of a second gap right now, Christopher Pfeffer. And then right now it's about 0.3 to a tenth separation throughout the rest of the field as we have a big old conga line going on so far. It's kind of a little something I talked about at the top of the show. Traffic is going to be hard to get through. If you have a very fast truck on the long run, it's still going to be very hard to pass because that is just the nature of the truck and that is the nature of this track with really no banking to lean on, as we have about, not a lot of banking, about 9 degrees of banking if I'm not mistaken. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but not a lot of banking. It's almost like an old school New Hampshire in a way, where it's very flat and you're running right on the bottom, right on the white line. So there's not a lot of room to work with, especially if you make a mistake. If you overcook these corners, you don't got a lot of banking that can catch you. So these guys trying to really just settle in right now as we come into complete lap 14 this time by. And right now everyone is smooth sailing, and yeah, everyone is trying to take their time.
And well, you're right about one thing here. These drivers, they definitely have to take their time. Overall, we have 9.25 degrees of banking through the turns and about 2.5 down the straightaways here. So, Dan, it's really minimal, no matter where you are on the track. We're taking a look at the overhead view of Milwaukee Mile, and it is as flat as the street roads it's right beside. Smack dab in the middle of West Allis, Wisconsin, anyway. It's been a staple for more than a century, but it's not really too extreme when it comes to its track design. It's a mostly flat circuit, it's an oval, it's very traditional when it comes to oval racing, and so drivers of all disciplines throughout the left-turning world have a chance to really adapt to it well. Most of these drivers here, of course, have that stock car racing background, so going to the trucks is quite natural, and there's really very little issue with it here. But that banking is not going to help out these drivers. It's in fact going to do mostly the opposite all night long, because you're going to be slamming your tires in with nothing to propel yourself off of. Now side by side, Johnny Avila and Matthew Morton, and the mid-pack starting to see some 2x2 battling as James Wenzel decides to go down to the inside, perhaps trying to make a move on Avila, who's stuck up top.
Yeah, Johnny Avila trying to make some work around the outside, trying to defend his position. And he's going to get some good drive off of turn number 2 and maybe use a little bit of draft for Matthew Morton down the back straightaway. Tries to get down in front of James Wetzel. Is not going to do so. But look how high he's going to run in the corner. Maybe try to find some extra grip. About 2 or 3 lanes up off the bottom. And let's see what kind of drive he gets. He's going to get some drive off turn 4. James Wetzel is going to pull ahead slightly. But Avila has a great run off turn number 4. And they're going to remain side by side for what looks to be the 13th position. And it looks like Avila is going to give up the ghost. Now, maybe not. He's going to try to fight back around the outside. He really likes that turns 1 and 2 right around the outside. But right now, we're going to remain side by side. Some good side by side battling going into turn 3 with Carson Bowers. He's getting the greatest view of all of this right behind him in the 15th position. And right now they're going to keep remaining side by side through turn 4. They're going to do another lap.
Now we're riding on board with the drivers. Got the best view in the house here. Carson Bowers, the number 42 team, needing a rebound. He started 15th. That is where he is. And so he's watching them go side by side for now 3 straight laps here. Although Avila gets a real nice run off the corner, and James Wenzel, no choice but to dive into the furthermost groove right by the apron. And that's going to keep Wenzel alive all the while. I think Avila has a chance to hold on the high side and maybe keep exactly where he's been. At the stripe again, another battle going to be very similar further on behind. It looks like that's going to be just behind Jack Coyne. That will be Jack Mace and Tanner Love. Now it looks like Coyne is going to be moved up to the high side here, and it's going to be Mace who was able to get by. Tanner Love in the mix as well. 2 side-by-side battles, and looks like even though that battle quickly dissipated, these two are still at it. Wenzel and Avila have not given up at all. No give, but at the same time, no take. And there's the taken. It looks like Wenzel just got the move done.
He did get the move done, and now Johnny Avila is trying to hang off from losing another spot to Carson Bowers, and he will get back to the bottom of the racetrack. So he will just fall back into the 14th position. And then you got Bowers, McClenny, Danson, Coyne, Mace, and Tanner Love rounding out the top 20. As Channing Ballou is trying to make a move on Tanner Love. That's for the 20th position to crack into the top 20, as we still got some moves all around this racetrack. So guys are trying to start searching a little bit. You see Tanner Love continuing to work that outside lane when Ballou was really not alongside him right there. So he's trying to find some extra grip. As Jack Mace, he's starting to make a little progress. He started 21st. He's up to 19th. He's trying to come off a really bad Watkins Glen where he felt confident about that race, but just did not put the race together like he hoped. Now we got a side-by-side battle with Ballou and Love. That is for the 20th spot, like I mentioned. And Garrison Hogan for Nitro Sim Racing is waiting in the wings to see what happens.
Well, you talk about Jack Mason once again. He felt that Watkins Glen, he could have done so much more than what ended up coming of it. He considered it an easy top 10 in qualifying had he not made a mistake, and ended up with no luck passing other drivers. The trucks are very hard to pass at the Glen, as they are right now, and you can see Channing still trying to hang tough on the inside while Tanner Love is right up top. Overall, qualifying is such a big deal at every circuit. I feel like we say that again and again, but it really does make the biggest difference. If you're a good driver week in, week out in qualifying, even if you falter with that long run speed, you have a chance to maybe put yourself back together. No matter how it slices down, whether you have a caution, maybe you just get a little better speed at the tail end of a run. Being in the back, starting in the back, is much worse than being up front. It's as simple as that. And right now, Tanner Love is going to fall behind. It looks like Channing is going to make the move inside the top 20. And now, perhaps try to chase down the drivers just ahead. Very, very few and far between when it comes to close battles right now. Even right now, for a driver like the 23, and of course, Dalton England right behind of Alexander Russell. Looks like nothing has happened yet, but Dalton now going to go up to the high side, that Team Connie Chevrolet, and perhaps starting to see a run move. Oh, it's going to be a crossover. And there goes Dalton to the bottom side. And now we got ourselves a battle with England going right at it, side by side now. And take a look at this. Looks like now Michael Bumgardner setting it to the inside.
Yeah, we got a lot of moves all over this racetrack right now. I had my eye on closer to the top 5 between Quentin Warman and Jackson Crowder. They're side by side. This is for a podium position, but we still got lots of racing left. We have just completed quarter distance, and Jackson Crowder, he's trying to go forward on Quentin Warman, tries to get to the inside lane. Quentin Warman, he is struggling. He is loose around the outside, but he's going to hang on to that spot in 3rd place. Very good run so far by Quentin Warman, trying to hang on to that spot as of right now. But Jackson Crowder, he's going to try to continue to work him over, as they're all going to try to go chase down Christopher Pfeffer, excuse me. I almost said Christopher Hill, but Christopher Pfeffer still hanging on to P2, as Brian Mercurio has now assumed a 2-second lead ahead of this field, as Crowder looked to give a bumper there to Quentin Warman, and he's going to try to get him up off the bottom. Crowder's going to go back to the inside again, maybe try to side draft him a little bit, but the run is not there. But like I mentioned, these packs are getting closer, and oh, look at he's going to continue to put the bumper to Quentin Warman, trying to get his nose to the inside lane. He is there. He has assumed position, and now he's going to try to beat him down to turn 1.
And here we have it, Quentin facing the trouble, and for the driver there of the number, well, up top 84, he is currently 17th and 4 points above the bubble, so a top 5 run and a top 3, that would be massive for this team, and it could be the ceiling ticket, of course, puncher to get him up inside contender. He's just above the major top 20 fight, where there are 5 drivers within 4 points up and down the order, so he cannot afford to lose any positions, especially now knowing being so high up on the ladder, it guarantees a big points gain. But Jackson Crowder, he was not afraid to maybe be a little bit more aggressive than Quentin decided to be back, and as a result, you'll see now Crowder going to try to make that move up into 3rd. Not easy said and done just yet, but clearly Warman going to give away the advantage on the bottom side, and most drivers have worked better on the low groove, and it looks like Crowder is one of which. Staying side by side now, 29 laps in out of 100. It's going to stay dead even across the corners and across the stripe again, although I think now Crowder is going to be the leader of this battle at the line. They touch slightly, Dan. It's still as close as it can get.
Oh, yeah, he definitely roughed him up there going into 1. Gave him a little door check down into turn number 1, and he's going to get the move done. Yes, will come up and clear. Quentin Warman, yep, he's just going to give up the ghost, going to push him down the back straightaway and settle into 4th place. And he's going to maybe have another shot around the outside lane, maybe try to set up a run on Crowder again. But right now, Quentin Warman seems to be just a little loose, struggling with that truck a little bit. Right now, he will slot in line to 4th. But right now, he's got a lot of hungry people behind him, in Justin Smith, Michael Frisch, and others, as we're starting to have a really big battle for 3rd place. 5 trucks probably within half a second right now.
Yeah, you even saw Agnell Phillip making it a 2x2 battle, although briefly with Michael Frisch was not able to make things happen. Of course, getting the pass done anyway, but Agnell stays in tow here. Got a massive group from second and third on back still battling. Chris Pfeffer's been able to get away for the most part here, and Brian Mercurio looks to be on track for a second consecutive victory if, of course, strategy is to go his way. Battle for third is going to be somewhat dormant, although very close, and now you'll see the number 22 machine going to drop to the inside there, and that is going to be Jack Coyne, maybe now getting in a bit of a bundle with Cade McClenny and Carson Bowers here. As it stands, Carson Bowers going to be just behind Johnny Avila. Avila is still 14th where he started, but that might change. Take a look now as it's going to be a little bit of pressure on Johnny. He'll take it nearly up to the wall, and Carson Bowers is almost going to make it 3 wide. Look at that. Cade McClenny coming in at the exact same time.
Very much is. Very much so right there. We're seeing, this is something we really didn't see last year. They're going to look 3 wide for the 15th position. You got Bowers on the bottom, McClenny in the middle, and an Avila up top. And we're going to remain 3 wide off turn number 2. Down the back straightaway, as Carson Bowers has actually called over the radio, he is coming to pit road. So we got pit strategy already going to kick off this time by. A lot of guys are going to try to short pit, but now this is not what you need for Carson Bowers, as you do not need a yellow flag. As here he comes to the pit lane, as pit stops are underway.
That is a huge and risky undercut. Of course, now it is possible for him to make it all the way in this race, but I don't quite know whether or not that team is going to understand the danger of putting him back into 30th and last just on a whim. 17 minutes of racing we've had so far, end to end, and 34 laps have counted from it. That is an odd decision. It makes sense to be different and try something, but if he gets caught out in the slightest, that is day done, and that could be the final nail in the coffin for his season. So a risky decision, if anything, and we'll see whether or not, of course, positive benefits come from it. Most of the field has again decided to stay out for the time being, and we'll see who calls in next, although it looks like Carson Bowers running down to the apron, and that's going to be still at pace. However, he'll fall right behind. Looks like Matthew Morton and now James Wenzel coming into the picture as well.
Back to some pit stop. Jack Mace is on the pit lane. Ryan Andrews on the pit lane. So we got some more guys that are maybe going to try this deep undercut and just see how well it works out for them. You see Carson Bowers is back on the racetrack. He just passed by Jack Mace coming off the pit lane right now. So we'll see. I'm going to try to get a look at Carson Bowers here and Jack Mace to see how much faster lap times these guys are running when they get some clean air. Right now, looking at guys like Bowers, guys like Mace, they made their bet. These guys are struggling in the points, and they need a big night tonight to keep themselves in contention. So why not go for broke? Why not pit early? As we got the side-by-side battle between Quinton Warman and, I believe, Justin Smith up ahead of these guys. This is for the 4th position, as Quinton Warman is starting to fall back a little bit.
It looks like now Quentin going to find some trouble as we take a look up to the head of the field. Pit road coming in so early is a huge risk, and, we'll get back to that, of course, but now you'll see the front runners going at it once again. Perhaps this is what tempts some drivers to go down into the pit road so early, the fear of losing pace and eventually losing a lot of time, and that's going to come with it. It looks like there Michael Frisch going to fall out of the frame. I believe, yes, he did go down to pit road, and with him, looks like nobody else in that front pack did so far, but he'll make the decision first of everyone around him.
He has brought Alexander Russell to the pit lane as well, so I'm not gonna lie, I was very surprised to see a lot of these guys pitting as early as they are, but maybe that's the way to go. Maybe pit early and get it done and over with because of how hard it is to pass the traffic. Maybe you pit now, get ahead of that traffic and hold them off with your clean air and whatnot. So here they come out of the pit lane. Frisch and Russell, they're gonna be very close out of the pit lane, but they're all going to fall a lap down. So what you do not need now is a yellow flag for guys like Frisch, Russell, and everyone else. But for right now, pretty much smooth sailing for everyone else. No one else really decided to come down to the pit lane yet, as we got the 3 wide action for 4th place. But that is Carson Bowers trying to get back on the lead lap on his fresher tires. Now we're going to take a look at guys like Michael Frisch and Alexander Russell. I want to see how much faster they are running, as Brian Mercurio, the race leader, has come down to pit road. Never mind.
So majority of the field now thinking that it's going to be the early undercut that makes the move for winning this race. Michael Frisch gets on the way. The number 58 machine gets back out there. It looks like now Michael's going to find himself up and ahead Of course, for all other drivers who went down to pit road. As it stands, it looks like the battle for the lucky dog is still ongoing. That's going to be Jack Mason, with them Carson Bowers. Both drivers going to be going alongside one another here, and coming up on those leaders, Agnell Phillip most recently went to pit road, and now Chris Pfeffer finds himself the temporary race leader, only to give it away now to Jackson Crowder himself. So leader is cycling. That position going to be swapped back and forth and shifted atop the order, and 40 laps in out of 100 right now. But looks like coming off of pit road, another in the 23 machine. That will be Alexander Russell, who just made his way. And you can see there's Russell and a few others behind, including Phillip here, Dan. More drivers are coming in, and Jackson Crowder, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe he ran a very similar strategy of going long for bonus points just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and unfortunately, bonus points don't mean anything. Laps led for bonus points, that's not a thing in Road to Pro. Maybe that's why we're going to see some different strategies here. So these guys that pitted, they made their bet. They're going to the end. But now will some guys that are deeper in the pack try to run long to maybe catch a yellow flag? Because if we go at least maybe 10, 15, 20 laps, that's going to bring all these guys right back down pit road again for 4 fresh Goodyear tires. So these guys are going to try to run long, maybe catch a yellow, trap some of these guys a lap down. But as we've already seen, a lot of these guys are already back on the lead lap. Guys like Mercurio, Frisch, Russell, Mace, Bowers, and others are already back on the lead lap. So if we have a caution to say right now, they're most likely going to stay on the racetrack. So very interesting to see how the rest of this race plays out, as we are nearing half distance without a yellow flag. So right now we're maintaining good pace in this race so far, and it's been some good racing so far. I don't know about you, but it's been a very enjoyable race.
No question, action-packed and overall very calm. The best of both worlds at the same time. Chris Pfeffer going to find himself now up in the front of the field. Justin Smith is too, and Smith looking to have another great run that is necessary for that team. A championship endeavor which might be down the drain without one more successful night. So for Justin Smith, this is going to be a critical one, as of course the majority of the field has come down to the point where it is do or die each and every night from here on out. We've only got ourselves, well, 2 more races, and it's going to be Rockingham and the Homestead Miami Speedway to finish off the schedule. So no doubt it's going to be a chaotic look from this point to the very end of the campaign, with the calendar coming down to 2 sort of wild card ovals from here. I think right now Milwaukee might be one of the final predictable circuits. Homestead, a lot of drivers visit too often, but Rockingham, that might still be the major what if. And the way the last few races have been going, tires and fuel being such a big deal, and so far halfway into this event with no yellow flags, attrition has been major as Chris Pfeffer decides to come down and in this time by. There is the number 66. You'll see him on your screen right now as he decides to drop down, and as Pfeffer goes through, it looks like just behind him one more driver going to go with, and that is the number 26 further on back. So I believe it's going to be one of the Team Conti boys. Now, as drivers are continuing to cycle up, where does our former leader Mercurio stand? He scored in 20th, and that's because so many drivers are still not yet on a pit road for the first time.
Yep, and as I'm looking at Chris Pfeffer, he's coming out the pit lane. He's going to hit the exit road here. As Brian Mercurio, he's got a huge advantage. I know he pitted so much earlier than Pfeffer, but he's already middle of turns. He's already heading off of turn number 4, while Chris Pfeffer is middle of the backstretch. So he's going to have a huge lead. I mean, he already had a huge enough lead coming into the pit stops, but his lead is only going to grow even more as we got Quinton Warman calling over the radio. He's pitting. So we got more pit stops. Everyone's going to try to get their service done and dusted.
Pit road getting busier and busier. Coming down and in this time by, there's Quentin Warman, and with them it's going to be Matthew Morton, both of which come together, and that's going to leave Ethan Lane inside the podium for the first time tonight. It's going to be Crowder, Smith, and Lane, your top 3 for the time being. Ethan, a man who finds himself inside of the top 20 as it stands, not in any immediate danger of falling out of contention, no pun intended. Lane has been having so far a very solid, if quiet season. We saw at Watkins Glen able to come home with a top 10 finish, and the Matt Black number 14 once again running up in front, and maybe with a chance to get by Justin Smith here before it's all said and done. One of Lane's biggest strengths continues to be working the tires well, and it looks like now maybe someone like Justin Smith facing the lappers' pressure, he's going to succumb to it a little bit more so, and that could give Ethan Lane maybe a spot to finish off this run before he has to come down to pit road as we approach very close to lap number 50 on the day, and the halfway marker will be led to us by Jackson Crowder Oh, he chooses to go down to pit road here, and with them, he will bring just behind Justin Smith. That gives Lane the race lead for the first time today.
And for someone like Ethan Lane, I know these few racetracks coming up for him. I know he is a big fan of Rockingham. It's one of his favorite tracks, so I know he's looking forward to Rockingham in 2 weeks. Then Homestead has always been a place that he's been able to get around pretty well as well. So I know for someone like Ethan Lane, who he's coming to the pit lane this time by, as we're going to complete halfway. He's got some really good racetracks coming up for him, which is a big opportunity to score a lot of points to get him into that contender series. He's going to hit the pit lane this time by, and I believe James Wetzel is going to stay on the racetrack, and he will lead us to halfway.
So James Wenzel gets halftime honors tonight. He's going to be the man at the front of the field. Matt Danson, Johnny Avila, Garrison Hogan, the drivers who decided to stay out. And most of the field has indeed fully cycled here. We're getting down to that point where most everyone is together once again. However, we'll fully confirm it when it's going to be Brian Mercurio back up to the race lead. He finds himself right now overall in 8th. Well, he's certainly going to be climbing the ranks regardless, and he's got a few spots to make up here and now as he comes across the line from 8th last time through. Now Brian Mercurio is going to be scored in 7th. Just got by Tanner Love, and it looks like Ethan Lane too, so definitely a major shift, and Matt Danson, 19th to 1st, still finds himself out there. All the drivers ahead of Brian Mercurio have not yet headed down to pit road, and the Atlas Engineering number 30 will have to be next up on the order to drop down and in and relinquish the race lead. This time by, though, he chooses not to and will stay out yet again. One pit stop still seems to be the move for most every driver tonight, as you see Johnny Avila now fighting for 2nd, the highest position he's been in all night long.
A big side-by-side action right here between Johnny Avila and Garrison Hogan. Hogan gets a little loose on the bottom. Avila, he's been one of the guys I've seen that has been working the top line the most. Look, you see him, he's up in the 4th or 5th groove, right up next to the wall, almost in the marbles. He's trying to make that groove work, and also making it work to good effect for himself at least. But for right now, all of these guys, Danson, Avila, Hogan, they all started outside the top 14. These guys are, I'd say, are going as long as possible, maybe just trying to catch a caution. That is what they're trying to do right now. And if they get a caution, that's going to bring everyone down to pit road, and they're going to have a lot of track position. But they can't look now because Brian Mercurio, he is gaining on these guys quickly. These guys are in the middle of turns 3 and 4. Mercurio has just entered turn 3 as Ashton Schleiss is called over the radio. He's coming to the pit lane this time by. But Brian Mercurio, he's catching these guys quick. So these guys, if they need a caution, they need it now.
Garrison Hogan finds himself currently 49th of the championship standings. Mind you, top 20 will make it in to the next round. Caden Rush is in 59th, so in all honesty, I don't really know what can be done for Caden besides winning the next 3 races outright to make it into the next round. But Caden's going to find himself on a huge back foot. Very similar situation for Garrison Hogan. And I think the major outlier would maybe be someone like Johnny Avila. But at the same time, Johnny not having the best of races so far. And of course, room for improvement starting in 14th and staying in the mid-teens all race long. Avila is 68th. And at that rate, really little else he can do besides finishing off the season and preparing for what is next. Matt Danson is still going to be scored as your race leader this time by. Jackson Crowder, the last man to officially signal in, and word will come around sooner than later that Matt Danson decides to opt to go down to pit road, of course, to settle himself in for one last run. 45 laps to go, and now look at on the back end of the front straightaway. Brian Mercurio, he's back again, and he's got nobody around him trying to battle for the race win.
For sure. The next guy that he really has to worry about is Michael Fresh, who is about 4 seconds behind him. So right now, if you're Brian Mercurio, you really just got to run some smooth laps, get around these guys who are trying to stay out on this strategy, and just bring this thing home. But honestly, we still got a lot of racing left. 43 laps, or we're coming to 43 to go this time by. 43 laps is a long time around a place like Milwaukee, running about 30, 31 second lap times. He's going to go underneath Avila. He's going to go underneath Hogan as well. He started this lap 4th. He's going to probably end the lap in 2nd as he's going to head down the back straightaway alongside Garrison Hogan. Hogan's going to get a slight run off turn 2, but that ain't going to hold off Mercurio on those fresh tires as he looks to the inside in turns 3 and 4. And now he sees Matt Danson right up ahead of him, as here comes Ashton Schleiss on fresher tires. Mercurio move him up to 2nd place. As Avila, he's going to peel off the track. He's coming to the pit lane.
And Johnny going to make his way through, which will give it all up to Matt Danson now at the front of the field. Very likely now that Matt loses that race lead even before he heads down to pit road. And with 42 laps to go, it looks like he's not going to get that opportunity to chase the checkered flag and receive it in due time. And so now he's going to be passed rather quickly. Lapper on the inside, as you mentioned there, Dan. And that will only leave one more driver in between Brian Mercurio and the race lead, Matt Danton himself. Coming across the stripe with 41 laps remaining. It's the 41 now right in tow. And I think at this point, Brian Mercurio, he is not going to play around. He should be able to make this a quick pass for Johnny Avila. He'll barely come out on the lead lap. So Brian Mercurio going to take it side by side, and he's going to be 3 wide now with Lapper Avila. Johnny should be able to make his way through the corner, but Brian Mercurio has already done his job. He is your race leader now with 41 laps remaining and will be coming across the stripe again now in sole possession of the race lead.
Yep, and guys like Matt Danson, Garrison Hogan, Caden Rush, they are pretty much the last 3 that have yet to pit. Also, Santiago Gutierrez, he's down in 8th place. He is yet to pit as well. But yeah, pretty much the main players, Danson, Hogan, Rush. Those are the last 3 up here, and Santiago Gutierrez as well. Those are the last 4 guys that need to pit for this cycle. And that means everyone will complete a pit stop, and they're good to the end. So really, the only thing that can really shake this race up is a caution flag, which I'm surprised, 61 laps in, we have not seen a yellow flag yet. We have been green since the drop of the green flag, and we've been green ever since. So it's been a really good race so far. We've seen lots of action all around the racetrack, but right now, everyone is pretty much spread out across this 1 mile Milwaukee Mile. So been a pretty good race so far, but right now, 39 laps left, coming to 38 laps left to go. Anything can happen here from now to the checkered flag.
You know, Dan, you mentioned Santiago Gutierrez, and he's a driver we haven't really talked about today. He started in 28th. He's up inside the top 10, but in all honesty, I'm sure it isn't the race he necessarily wanted. Of course, finding himself up inside the top 10, a highest position of 7th. Currently, yellow flags out for the first time tonight. Who is it involved? Back in the field, perhaps?
I'm trying to look for it. I'm trying to look for it somewhere. But, yeah. Trying to find it. We have our first caution flag of the evening, as it is. Oh, it's Jack Mace. Jack Mace in head on in the outside wall in turn 4. We'll have to get a replay of that, but it all started between him and Carson Bowers, and I believe Michael Bumgarner as well, his own Team Conti teammate.
Oh, we're taking a look at the replay now. Jack Mace, after what was an underwhelming performance at Watkins Glen, well, he's in a very close battle here, side by side. The 0-7 is on the bottom of Carson Bowers, and it looks like making it through 3 and 4. Mace with contact, hooked up the track, destroyed.
Destroyed after contact with Carson Bowers. He's head on to the wall. And with that, his night is over, and pretty much his chances at the Contender Series pretty much blown up as well. And it's going to be very hard to come over these next 2 races, but for now, it's pretty much his night's over, his season might be over, as the entire field's coming up pit road. This was a savior for guys like Matt Danson, Garrison Hogan, Caden Rush, Santiago Gutierrez. They were the big winners out of this caution flag.
And now drivers going to be heading down to pit road. Brian Mercurio will still have the race lead, so he'll get that second pit stop for free. However, rest of the field, we might see some shufflers and movers up who are able to capitalize on that track position. Yellow flag at a critical time, and it looks like Brian Mercurio will again be your race leader. Look at that fight off of pit road, and it looks like, I can't tell who got there in second. Bumgarner.
I believe Bumgarner second, Bowers 3rd, Frisch 4th, Hogan 5th, and Danson 6th. I believe that's the order they came out, and I'm not sure if we had some 2 tires there or 4 tires, but a lot of shuffling in the order here. That is for darn sure, but man, this has really flipped the race on its head all of a sudden. But I believe, yeah, Carson Bowers took 2 tires. I'm pretty sure Michael Frisch took 2 tires. Brian Mercurio, I'm pretty sure, took 2 tires as well. No, he took 4 tires, excuse me. Brian Mercurio was on 4 tires, but we do have Carson Bowers on 2 tires from what I've seen, and maybe a couple others. But yeah, David, this race has now pretty much flipped on its head.
So some drivers decided to take none. Take a look at this. Ethan Lane is now your new race leader. Then behind him is Ryan Andrew for second. Tanner Love, Ashton Slice, and Johnny Avila, top 5, have all decided not to go down a pit road. This is an interesting conundrum here. We got all sorts of strategy now with 35 laps to go. I don't know about this.
Yes, and someone like Johnny Avila, he just came off the pit lane right when that yellow flag came out. He stayed on the lead lap. Guys like Schleiss, Love, Andrew, Lane, they all stayed on the lead lap, and they didn't really pit that long ago. So right here, this could be an advantage for these guys. They're up front in some fresher, cleaner air. Can they hang on? They do have slightly older tires, but can they hang on from here on out? This is going to be a challenge for Brian Mercurio, who will be restarting in the 6th position to cut through this field. But as we've seen, the groove has been able to widen out. Can he use some of those higher upper grooves to maybe cut through this traffic? But we'll see guys like Ethan Lane, who was just pitted not that long ago. Can they hang on and take advantage of that clean air? But something we need to note are the restarts. It's going to be very tight on these restarts with everyone trying to dive 3 and 4 wide, trying to dive down to that rumble strip onto the bottom lane, the shortest way around the racetrack. It's going to be such a slugfest when we go back to the green flag, as they are down the back straightaway. Lights are out on the pace car. We are coming to green this time by.
Here we go again. Ethan Lane and Ryan Andrew are going to be the drivers who have the opportunity tonight to lead us to the green flag for our opening restart on the day. This is different. Certainly not the drivers you might have expected to see at the front of the field, but instead, we got a brand new bunch who are deciding to keep themselves out there on old rubber. Hopefully it's old enough for where there's a little bit of warmth in it, and young enough where there's no tire squealing. That could bring us back to the yellow flag in a blink of an eye. Pace car is going to drop down low, and that's going to leave Ethan Lane with control of the field, bringing it through the gears. Rather quick start there for Lane, with the rest of the field shuffling out big to 2 or 3 wide. Lane gets away, side by side further on back, and there's already big contact, but do they save it? It looks like they do. Major Hornet's nest further on behind. Taking a look at guys like Justin Smith. Agnell Phillips going to go around. Is that the caution? It looks like. Now it is. It's going to be Channing Baloo just getting away, but River Hayes goes half sliding. Yellow flags out again.
Yeah, definitely the biggest loser out of all that was Agnell Phillip. Restarted 12th, is now back to, I'd say, around 28th, 29th. He just got knocked in the middle sideways, and he just spent the entire restart, that entire turn 1 and 2, just trying to collect it. Where I believe he got a bump. Yes, he got a bump from Caden Rush, trying to shove it 4 wide on the outside of Matt Danton on the inside of Agnell Phillip. Man, what a close call. Alexander Russell almost got collected in that, but a very close call for a lot of these guys. Agnell Phillip gets sent into a spin, and then River Hayes, he getting the worst end of it. But, yeah, Agnell Phillip's going to have some damage to that truck. Not what you needed coming in as the points leader.
Bad news for Agnell Phillip. He'll fall back now to 28th, although the majority of the field did a really good job of keeping it together. There's nothing more you can do when, 10 to 15 drivers stack up all at once. 32 laps remaining now, and Ethan Lane finds himself the race leader. Number 14 machine out and ahead, and it looks like a few other drivers able to make some gains. Brian Mercurio going to find himself there in 4th. Ashton Slice is going to be in 5th. Then you got Avila in 6th, and Carson Bowers position number 7. So the top 10 is mostly unchanged, but there are a few differences. One notable similarity is Ethan Lane got a good jump and got away from all the chaos there. Might be the best thing he's done all race so far.
Yeah, Mercurio restarted 6th. He's up to the 4th position. He made a couple of games. Johnny Avila, maybe not the restart he wanted. He slipped back a couple spots. Carson Bowers, he had a nice gain. He's up to 7th. Bumgarner 8th. And Garrison Hogan, he didn't get the greatest restart, but he's still in 9th. And Michael Frisch rounds out the top 10. So, tell you, we got a mix back at the front of the field. But some guys, if we keep having yellow flags, this is going to help them with their heat cycles on tires, where that could even out with the rest of the guys on fresher rubber. So for guys like Ethan Lane, Tanner Love, and all these guys, you might be sitting in the hot seat right now.
Bowers is up from 15th to 7th. Ashton Schleiss is up 25th to 5th. And we go double file once again in about a lap's time for a restart with 28 laps remaining. We got a question in the chat room, and it's directed right at you, Dan. Are you running Moon Car tonight?
It will be in Moon Car tonight. You will see me there tearing it up in the Pepsi Mobile. Hopefully getting a race win and not getting in any beef either. So, but no, we will be seeing you in Moon Car.
Well, good to hear, Dan. Of course, the driver of the broadcast booth.
I appreciate the question. Who asked that?
That was Drew in the chat room.
Oh, would that be Drew Jua by any chance? That's the only Drew I pretty much know, but I don't know if it's someone else. But I appreciate the question. I thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, Drew in the chat room, and if you had a favorite driver, make sure to shout them out here. I know Dan might be the favorite. You might be for a lot of these guys, but a lot of good Road to Pro talent. So if you got a favorite driver you're rooting for, chat room, we'd love to hear you get loud here with just a few laps until we go at it again. 28 to go this time by. Ethan Lane going to be your race leader. Then from there, you'll see Tanner Love, and then Ryan Andrew, Brian Mercurio. Familiar faces are meeting up with drivers who haven't been up in front all night long here, and this is what it's all about with 29 laps to go. Hopefully we don't descend into true chaos here. We had such a great opening run, and we don't want that to go to waste. Just a few laps to go.
Absolutely do not want that to waste, as Ethan Lane, Tanner Love going to lead us back to the restart. And I say this field has been all shaken up. Can we see even more shakeups in these final 30 laps? We'll have to wait and find out. But Brian Mercurio, he's up to 4th place here. He's been the fastest truck all race long. Now he's seeing if he is fast enough to get through this traffic, get through these older tires, to see if he can come back up and get back to the lead. We'll see what happens. At the easy lane, he's going to lead us back to the restart.
Lane going to get through the gears once again, hoping to avoid some carnage as the field comes all around in the stray one more time. Now it's going to be time for Ethan Lane to get things moving again. He gets another nice restart, more than a truck length off the start. And here we go into the front straightaway. Look back in the middle of the field, 4 wide with Chris Pfeffer just ahead. Alexander Russell and company still 3 throughout the first 2 turns. But it looks like everyone comes away straight and sound, at least for the time being. I don't think they're safe though in the slightest here. Look at the movement. Double file and triple file, Dan. We're going for the bottom of the track up to the 4th groove with guys like Johnny Avila.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to dive for the bottom lane, but some guys try to dive to the outside. We're going to look 4 wide down the front straightaway. Andrew, Bumgarner, Schleiss, and Avila. They're going to go back to 3 wide with Avila, Schleiss, and Ryan Andrew, as we have a caution flag on the racetrack at the back half of the field. And that looks to be, I believe, Caden Rush is around in turn 2.
Caden Rush brings out the yellow flag, and it's going to be Rush who falls even further back. Unfortunately for Caden, not the best of days. And so we're going to catch up right now to Rush, finding himself at the tail end of the field, and get you an instant replay on what just happened here. A lot of shuffling, and I think that's what did him in. Contact, which came from the bottom groove up top, and that's going to spin Caden around, and he's going to end up at rest through the turn 1 wall.
Yeah, Matt Danson just diving to the inside of 3 wide there. Very late move there, but was able to get underneath Quentin Warman. Slid up into Quentin there, slid him up into Caden Rush. And Caden was unfortunately the unlucky one that gets sent around here.
Bad news for Rush, but that's going to bring us even closer to the checkered flag. Now, I don't think we're going to restart with more than 22 laps at the very most. Drivers are running out of opportunity, but Ethan Lane is running out of time. Look who's next to him now, Brian Mercurio. If Brian's got to go for 2 consecutive wins, he's going to do anything he needs to do, especially now with time beginning, slowly but surely, to run out.
Yeah, time is starting to tick, and as we get later into this race, guys are going to get even more aggressive on these restarts, which is going to limit our green flag running. So, and that's unfortunately, the unfortunate truth is you got to get all your spots on these restarts with the very limited green flag running we're having now. So if you're up here in the top half of the field, you're sitting in a pretty good spot. Like guys like Avila, Schleiss, they're still sitting in 4th and 5th with these several restarts we had. They're sitting probably the best spot right now on these older tires, and they're looking pretty good right now. They'd be happy if the race ended right now, but unfortunately we still got another 20-ish laps left before we decide these things. But for Ethan Lane, who's been controlling these last couple restarts, he loves what he's seeing. He wants the yellows. Like, keep bringing on the yellows. Let's end this thing right now.
25 laps to go and ending this race. We're getting closer to that point than we've been all night long. So if you enjoyed the fun, it looks like a few other fans coming in the chat room. Josh Edmondson showing his support for Garrison Hogan today. Garrison finds himself 11th, 12 spots up on where he started, and it looks like he made the most of that long green flag run he took, and we said he would need something like that to build up position. He took advantage and now finds himself in a much better spot than before and reaping the reward of giving it a chance and going a little bit longer all things considered, not half bad, and as such, Hogan is going to be just beyond the confines of the top 10. Now, sun is shining again here in Milwaukee, and the weather report is going to show you overall ambient temperature is going to be coming in at 76 Fahrenheit. Track temp is not warm because we barely had sunlight, so it comes in at 87 degrees Fahrenheit, and not bad at all. The field in a very good position without it being very warm on the track at the same time. So no question now, the field is ready to go at it again in just a lap and a half's time when we go racing here in Milwaukee once more for what will be restart number 2 on the day.
Yeah. We had to enjoy that nice long green flag run, but unfortunately we're getting to a time where aggression is going to be favored, where people are going to start throwing their brain out the window, as I like to say. I've done that a few times in my day. So you see all these restarts that we have in the Coke Series. We do that on every single restart, and we're going to start seeing a little bit of that when these guys are going to get a little more aggressive. I wouldn't be surprised we maybe see quite a few trucks get taken out in the big one. I would not count that out just yet, but for right now, these guys are lining back up, and we're ready to get this thing back underway.
Here we go again. Ethan Lane now in the prime position to perhaps come away with a checkered flag for the first time this season, but Brian Mercurio has worked his way back up to the catbird seat. Brian has been the odds-on favorite all race long, looking to go for 2 consecutive wins with Tanner Love, Johnny Avila, and a few other drivers who have been unsuspecting all night long, making it up to this point and hoping to give the rest of the field a run for their money as we go back at it again with 22 laps left on the table. iRacing pace car going to drop down and in and give it back to Ethan Lane. Here we go now, but Lane back in charge. The number 14 brings the field to green, already spreading out massively. Look at the inside where guys like Chris Pfeffer take it 4 wide again, but the front runners get away nicely, and it feels like it's a bit of a trend. 3 wide, the mid-pack. The leaders get away sound and smooth. And look ahead, Brian Mercurio. Oh, contact in the back of the field. It's going to be a caution again.
Into the back.
And that was the 17 of, not Trevor Huff, mind you. Who was it?
That was Santiago Gutierrez and Matthew Morton at the back half of the field right there. It all started with Santiago Gutierrez getting a little wibble-wobbly in the middle of the field, probably some contact in the middle of 3 and 4 wide. And then that collected Matthew Morton, one of the Nexus machines out there. And, yeah, it was not good back there, as we're going to get a look at the replay.
Simply put, they're going 3 wide a little bit too early, wouldn't you think?
Oh, it's never too early to go too wide. It's crunch time for these guys in the middle half of the field. With these guys trying to go out and get these points, and with only 20 laps left in this race, not a lot of time for you to make up some ground. So these guys going full push, full aggression. As you saw in that restart, there was a big block by Garrison Hogan on Chris Pfeffer that threw him down at the inside wall. And that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately, with everyone trying to fight for the bottom, which is the shortest way around and really the narrowest groove. Very narrow groove trying to get down that inside line where all the grip is on these restarts on newer tires. And this is the end result, unfortunately.
Matthew Morton also going to be sent further back now to 29th as a result of that incident. River Hayes, Caden Rush caught up in the tail end of the field as well. And so we settle in once again. At the front of the field, Ethan Lane, he got a huge break out of that one. I mean, he was less than a foot away from being passed for the race lead. And the yellow flag comes out just before. That will give him, 2 or 3 more laps to maybe go at it again and maybe try to run away till the next restart. It's huge for Ethan Lane, and I think now more than anything else, he understands he's got to use his time wisely now that it's running out. Mercurio is going to keep him very close, but at the same time, not going to be impossible to maybe have a chance to hold out for the race win. Might not be likely, but I think now, Dan, there's a really serious chance that Ethan Lane comes away with the podium because his tires are not getting any warmer as we continue to run these yellow flag laps.
For sure, he gets another opportunity to cool down his tires, and just another opportunity to control another restart. Brian Mercurio almost had his number right there on that last restart. He was really close, maybe had a shot to take the race lead in the next corner, but that caution flag was able to save him right there. So for Ethan Lane, you're loving this. Keep bringing on the yellow flags. I'll keep my track position. I'll keep this race lead. He's loving every single bit of this so far.
So Lane's going to get the biggest benefit, but let's talk about the driver who's made the biggest moves so far today. Someone we haven't mentioned all too much of, and that's going to be the number 88 of Ryan Andrew. He started next to last today. He started in 29th. He was as low as dead last in 30th and as high as second. But right now, Ryan finds himself sitting in the 6th position and running comfortably inside of the top 10. For Ancient World Esports and Storm Sim Performance, Andrew, in all honesty, hasn't had the best of Road to Pro seasons, but he's done a good job today, turning what looked to be a surefire race. Could have really gone nowhere, almost a drop race, so to speak, although we don't have any this season, into a very solid performance. Up inside nearly the top 5 here, and maybe a chance to put things together and come away with the checkered flag if really things went wrong ahead. But a top 10 does not seem unrealistic here, as we are stacking up again to go 1 lap to green for what looks to be a 17-lap restart from this point onward.
Yes, very good for Ryan and Andrew. He's only 11 points out of the cut, sitting in 35th position, tied with James Wetzel, or 34th, excuse me. But someone I want to shout out is this guy sitting in 5th place, Ashton Schleif. I feel like he's flown under the radar with a lot of people this season, yet he's had some up and down finishes, but he honestly, I count him in the hunt if he stays where he is. He's only 13 points out of the cut line, sitting in 38th place. If he comes home with a great finish, this is some momentum he can take to the next 2 races, and maybe could be one of those under the radar that can maybe steal a spot in that top 20. But for right now, we still got lots of laps left, so we got to get there first. But for right now, coming to the green, Ethan Lane out front, 17 laps to go, David.
And now Ethan Lane looking to lead his 3rd straight restart here. He's made the move to stay out with no extra set of tire, and it looks like so far it has paid off. Already going to be splitting down to the inside of the circuit. Take a look at that massive move down and in the mid-pack again, 4 wide, but it seems like now that's how they just do it again and again, almost like it's a procession. Leading is still going to be Ethan Lane. 3 wide, Alexander Russell there with Carson Bowers, whereas Lane this time is not side-by-side off the corner, but instead alone with the race lead. 3 wide, they're still going to remain coming through the final 2 turns and coming across again. This time by, we make it to the green flag for 1 consecutive lap, which is the first we've seen since, of course, we went under yellow to begin with. Ashton Slice now going to be right up top on Bumgardner and Tanner Love, battling each other fiercely with very, very tough, aggressive blocks. And that's going to send Tanner up to the top side. Meanwhile, there to the inside goes Michael Bumgardner once again, and for the first time, contact James Wenzel back in the field. That will bring us to caution again.
James Wetzel backwards down the back straightaway in the outside wall. Well, you said we made it 1 green flag lap for the first time in a while, but it ends quickly as it did start. We'll get a look at the replay. But the first thing I saw was he was backwards into the outside wall. I'm not sure where the contact initiated, but we're going to get a quick look right here.
Well, it looks like he did take a look at a turn 2. 3 wide they were, again, but let's take the best angle we have, super slow-mo it down, and it looks like with the Channing Balu, Wenzel slightly pushed up to the top, and he was just not clear on Nick Miller, and so Miller turned him in. That's what did him in, and Wenzel goes spinning, getting the worst of the damage then and there.
Just tight quarter racing, especially at the back half of the field where everyone's fighting for every piece of real estate at the back, especially with how close the racing is, like I mentioned. And unfortunately, they just ran out of room. Kind of been the product of all these restarts. Guys going 3 and 4 wide and just running out of space.
And so we burned the better part of the last 20 laps on yellow flag stints. As brief as they've been, it now comes down to the point where we have 14 laps to go, and we'll go back green again with 12 laps remaining. If you just started watching live on FTN here, tune in, grab a seat. This is what it's all about, racing for a chance to enter the Road to Pro ladder in the Contender Series. And you know what, Dan, we got a little bit of time here, so how about we explain to the viewers what exactly is going on with the Road to Pro ladder from top to bottom. I'm sure they'd love to hear a little bit more about what it takes to join the professional ranks here of eNASCAR stock car racing.
Yeah, for sure. We've already completed the first round of Road to Pro, where you just need an A-class license to participate. And the top 70 from round 1 through 8 weeks of competition got the chance to be here where we are right now in round 2. When we get to round 2, the snakes are split, where we have 35 drivers in each split. But tonight we only have 30, as some guys have decided to drop out with them being out of contention in the point standings. Where if you finish inside the top 20 in points at the end of Homestead, Miami, you will advance to the Contender Series. And if you're around maybe 21st through 23rd, 24th, you might have an extra spot if people that have fallen out of the Coke Series decide to not return for the Contender Series if they're out of the top 20. And you take the bottom, when we get to the Contender Series, you take the bottom 20 from Coke and the top 20, maybe some extra from Road to Pro. And that is where you go on a 7-week stretch through the wintertime, through October, November, maybe even into December, is where the top 30 are going to be taken from the Contender Series, which will be joined with the top 20 from the Coke Series to give us a 50-driver pool that will be put into free agency through January of 2025 to decide who will be the 40 drivers that will be signed by the teams to go racing when racing kicks off again in February. And the remaining 10 drivers that do not get selected in free agency will have the choice to become backup drivers. So it's a little bit different this year compared to last year, but we'll probably have to dive more into that once free agency rolls around.
We will, of course. It's a very, very intricate championship process, and many a time it's been all down to the final few points where drivers make it in or get excluded. Now, with that being said, 12 laps remaining here, and Ethan Lane is your race leaders. We're going to go for an 11-lap stint. Tuesday night on FTN, Ethan Lane collected his 10th victory in the Integrity Octane Series at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, in which he didn't make much a bold choice on tire. He just made the right one, deciding to come in a lap earlier than his competitors to collect his 10th victory of the season in a total of 20 attempts so far. With a 50% win rate in one of the more competitive racing leagues on the platform, Lane knows what it's like to work the tire strategy to a T, and it looks like tonight he's doing something different, and he's reaped the benefits of it so far. Now as we come down to the final moments of single-digit lap count, the pace car drops in once again, and that will give Lane and Mercurio an opportunity to fight once more. Green flag gonna fly again with Ethan Lane getting the jump, a car length up, and you see there, Frisch and company. Oh, Ryan Andrew gets very loose, and he's gonna spin again. Ryan Andrew brings out the yellow flag, and so we are under caution once more.
That was Ryan Andrew going for a block on Carson Bowers. I saw that with my very eyes before you even saw it. He went for the block, and Carson Bowers, he was not having any of it. Gets in the back of Ryan Andrew. He goes sideways into turn 1, and unfortunately collects a few others. Chris Pfeffer, he almost gets involved in it. He lost a lot of spots on that restart. But yeah, Carson Bowers, he was not having any of that one.
Oh, just bad news for Ryan Andrew, who started in 29th today. Anything would have been an improvement, and he's going to have to come down to pit road now. I think he will end up again in 29th place. That's the cruel irony of racing at times, because he's going to fall back exactly to where he started after a wonderful performance, and the fruits of his labor will not be seen tonight. He's going to end up exactly where he began.
Yeah, what was a great strategy call for Ryan Andrew. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of what these restarts have been, just trying to go down and block. And as you see, some people are willing to give, but guys like Carson Bowers, he isn't willing to give. It's all take at these restarts, and that's clearly what would happen on that restart. Just try to block, and unfortunately, he kind of paid the price for blocking just a little too much going down in turns 1 and 2 that time by. And that's, like I mentioned, that's just the nature of these restarts, is we're inside the final 10 laps. Not a lot of green flag racing this second half of the race, but it is understandable with just how aggressive these guys are getting on these restarts.
So we'll go back green. I think now it's 7 laps to go. Keep in mind, we do have overtime attempts on the table. Hopefully we don't have to dig into the stash of going lap after lap under yellow even further here. And this will be, I believe, yellow flag number 5 now. Ethan Lane remains your race leader. Brian Mercurio is going to be there in second. And while I don't think Mercurio's chance to get the win is out of the way, who would have thought that Brian would not be leading by this point, given how big of an advantage he had coming off of pit road during our green flag run. He had some 2.5 seconds, and it looked like the gap was still even growing at that time, and he's still got a massive advantage relative to most other drivers. Ethan Lane has just been able to get those lucky breaks again and again and again to hold him at bay.
Now, welcome to eNASCAR, where nothing is for certain and anything can happen. I mean, you may have a strong car, you may be dominating, and then the next thing you know, you're in the outside walls, like we've seen with a few of these guys across the whole season in both Coke and the Road to Pro Series. So, like I said, anything can happen. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to big-time sim racing, you know. So, but it's not over yet for Brian. He still has a chance to get around Ethan Lane, but honestly, the more caution laps we have and the more Ethan Lane can control these restarts, I don't really see any way how Brian can get around him, but I've been proven wrong many times. He's had the speed, he's had the truck, but now, does he have the laps? That's pretty much, it's coming down to a numbers game with laps. Like, he's starting to run out of laps, and the more caution flags we have, the more it's going to be in Ethan Lane's favor.
You know, the interesting part is, we mentioned how Ethan Lane's biggest strength is getting these cautions. You know, Brian Mercurio has not been warming up his tires either. He might have them as good as fresh and new if we just get more than 2 laps under green. Which, you know, has been a big, big problem. But at the same time, if he gets just a few more laps, he might have a perfect chance to make his way into victory lane for the 2nd straight week, if only he gets by that number 14. Of course, nothing guaranteed just yet. Mercurio and Lane are still going to be going toe-to-toe for the race lead when we go back green this time by, and it's anyone's guess as to who gets it done to this final, potentially final, 6-lap shootout.
Well, let's see. Can we end this race with 6-lap shootout? Can we stay green? Or are we going to be set up for a green-white checker? Because I'm pretty sure if we have a caution on this restart immediately or on the next lap, we will for sure be going to a GWC. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But for right now, it's all about Ethan Lane right now controlling yet another restart. And he's been pretty good at doing them these last couple times. So we'll see what happens with going back green.
Perfect jump there for Ethan Lane. He gets out and away. 4 wide, further on back. Same song, different verse. There's still 4, and you'll see Tanner Love right there with the number 84 machine. Ashton Schleiss and company also staying real. Oh my goodness, it's destruction in the back of the field, and another yellow flag. And it looks like that was Garrison Hogan.
Garrison Hogan in the back half. Yes, Garrison Hogan in the back half of the field. I would say he tried to go up the middle between, I believe, Justin Smith and Carson Bowers. And once again, just ran out of space. And Carson Bowers, I just noticed Bowers is in the outside wall as well. He got a piece of that. Justin Smith is in the outside wall. And then I believe Kaner Rudge, he gets swept up in this as well. And it's just been one of those nights, David, where we're very green flag early, and then we just wad him up at the end. But you hate it for Garrison Hogan, who worked that strategy perfectly, was in a spot to get a really good finish, and now his night ends in the outside wall.
Oh, Garrison did another great job, and I feel bad for, Josh Edmondson in the chat who gave that support out. It looks like tonight, unfortunately, all for naught. 5 laps to go. We might be having a natural green-white checkered the way things are looking. If anything, we'll be going perhaps into that green-white checkered procedure regardless. And, for the viewers who haven't come around before on FTN, let's break it down. White flag is the be-all, end-all. We get to the white flag, the race will be official, and it will end as you see. However, if we don't get to the white flag under any circumstance, this race will be extended for multiple green-white checkered attempts. We have 3 of which in our bank. I believe we will not be using one this time by, and this will be what we call a natural green-white checkered, which means the race can still be extended up to 3 more attempts if we get another yellow flag.
Yeah, we don't got to worry about any weird NASCAR officiating here in iRacing. Once they get the white flag, the race will stay green no matter how many people wreck or how many cars are stopped on the track. Once we take the white flag, the race is official. This baby will end under green flag conditions. So if you're Ethan Lane, as long as I just get another good jump here on this restart, I just got to hang on for 2 laps. That's all he needs is 2 laps to hang on and just take home this checkered flag. But for right now, he's been doing a very good job. Got to give a shout out to him. I know we've given him his flowers already, but he played the strategy. He pitted around halfway, got the right timing of a yellow flag, and just thankfully with all these cautions, he's just been able to hang on every single restart. So big shout out to him. But right now, he's still got to get the job done. He's got to hang on here for what looks to be, I believe these guys are going to be double filing up, but the lights are still on the pace car, so we will be going to our first attempt at overtime.
And so here we go again. Ethan Lane and Brian Mercurio going to be side by side here for a 3-lap shootout, and we're going to be heading into that green-white checker territory. It appears lap 90.
Lights are still on. Lights are still on.
Lights are still on. Yes, which is why I'm saying this will be an official attempt. Because we go to lap 99, right? And that means that's when the lights goes off. So I think we have 1 lap of extension.
We will be restarting on lap 100. The race will end on 101 if this is the only attempt we have. So yes, we will be go into our first overtime, and we got 3 of them in the bank to use. So if we end up going caution again, we'll go to our second attempt, and if we go caution again, we'll use our third attempt, just like that. So we're getting down to the end of it. It's just, when is the race going to end?
Well, that's the biggest of questions. 3 laps to go. Lane and Mercurio. All of a sudden, it looks like Ethan Lane has a chance to go for victory lane once more. It looks like he might have a chance to do the unthinkable. He decided to only go for 1 pit stop, even when we had almost everyone come down and in. Brian Mercurio has been fantastic today. He just doesn't have to get wrecked. That's the big thing. If he makes it past the white flag, it's fair game between he and Lane, and that's when things are going to get very, very exciting, I'll tell you this much. How about Michael Bumgarner, Johnny Avila, Ashton Schleiss, and company further on back? Maybe if something happens, they'll be waiting in the wings as well. 2 more miles, 2 more laps. That's what it's all about from here. Mercurio, Ethan Lane, the 1-2 combination that have been able to get up to this point, are now looking to finish the job against one another. Time again for the number 14 of Ethan Lane to get the job done and go for victory lane for his first of the season, while Brian Mercurio looks for his second in 2 weeks. Green flag's out with 2 laps to go. Everyone actually stays double file now for the most part. Oh, we got contact. Is it a spin? Not yet. Everyone will stay clear and straight. Oh, up the track once more. That looked to be further on back a spinner. I think it's Therese. We stay green.
There's Justin Smith.
Justin
I believe it was
Smith.
Justin Smith that went around, but we do stay green. Yes, we do stay green. Brian Mercurio, he slots back into second. We're side by side for third. Ashton Schleiss is getting knocked around. They're coming off turn 4. Mercurio, this is his last chance. He's taking the white flag.
1 lap to go now for Ethan Lane. And the number 14 finds himself the leader. Mercurio has been behind for the better part of this run, and who would have thought that Mercurio with newer tires finds himself on the tail end? Ethan Lane able to squeal squirmishly out of turn 2, gets the better run, and it looks like the 14's got the advantage. Brian Mercurio sends it to turns 3 and 4, but it just is not enough. What a Cinderella story for Ethan Lane, the number 14, with victory in Milwaukee. He played the strategy game better than we could have ever imagined. He got the final 30 laps under yellow and his old tires with the newest race winner in Road to Pro this year. Lane collects the checkered flag tonight.
Barry, what a great race by Ethan Lane. Started at 9. He started in the top 10. He seemed like a factor all night long, but just didn't quite have the track position. But he was able to get the caution at the right time. He was able to stay out on a different pit strategy, and thankfully, with all the cautions, with all the wrecking, he comes out on top, and very much he's going to take home 40 points as well. The most points of anybody going to the final 2 races. He's looking in a pretty good spot. He came in tonight, I believe, 9 points ahead of the cut, 8 points ahead of the cut in 15th position. This will give him a big boost of points in the point standings going to the final 2 races.
And Lane, 38 of 102 laps led, and you know, Dan, 38, that's the final laps that he was able to lead from the end to end. He could have been passed many times. He got all the big breaks, and, you know, we thought that Mercurio would have the advantage in just more than a lap or 2, but Lane was able to hold him off when it mattered the most. Great job for Ethan Lane. And another astounding performance for Brian Mercurio. Don't get us wrong, he must have wanted that victory more than anything, but Lane, he held him off. 2 great drivers at the best of moments coming together. No clean, of course, action comes without excitement. And tonight, luckily, both of them kept it scot-free as Ethan Lane rolls around for a bit of a Polish victory lap. Let's take a look at your race results here, Dan, as Lane continues to take his final tour. Ethan tonight will win over Brian Mercurio in second and Michael Bumgarner there in third. 4th place going to be Johnny Avila, and 5th is going to go to Ashton Schleiss with Quentin Warman, Michael Frisch, and Jackson Crowder 6, 7, 8. 9th place is going to be Tanner Love and Cabe McClenny. Rounds out the top 10.
Dalton England's going to come home in P11. Channing Ballou is going to come home in 12th. Alexander Russell finishes 13th. He got shoved out of the line on the last lap by, I believe, Tanner Love, so he won't be happy about that. Christopher Pfeffer is going to finish in 14th. Dylan Jones will finish in 15th. Matt Danson, Carson Bowers, James Wetzel, Nick Miller, and Trevor Huff, David, is going to round out the top 20.
Let's take a look at those final drivers from then on back, and you're going to see in 21st position tonight, well, it's going to be Jack Coyne with 22nd, Matthew Morton, Agnell Phillip in 23rd, and 24th, Santiago Torres. River Hayes is going to be 25th, with P26 going to Caden Rush, 27th, Ryan Andrew, and Garrison Hogan in 28th. P29 then and there on the order goes to Justin Smith and Jack Mace. Rounds it all out, 30th on the day, unfortunately not the race that he wanted, and again, Jack finding trouble at the end of the night. One driver who was able to escape that trouble, race winner. What about that performance for Ethan Lane? The job done by the number 14 effectively locks him in a contender, and he played the final half of this race perfect here. Let's get a word from your top 3 finishers, starting with the man who got it done. I saw him on Tuesday collecting a victory at the Brickyard, and it looks like at the biggest stage of truck racing and iRacing, Ethan Lane, what a win. We know it's your first return full-time Road to Pro season since I believe beyond 2022, and you win here in Milwaukee. How do you feel?
Oh, I don't even know what to say now. God, that was a strategy call for sure. I definitely knew we had probably a top 10 truck. Andrew definitely built one fast piece for here. Was really confident coming in. And then the guys over at on the team made a really great call, figuring it was probably gonna be a wreck fest, and it was. And then once tires kind of evened out between me and Brian, I knew if we could have just got in front by at least 2 tenths, we would be able to hold on. Um, I just can't believe we actually got one.
And what a way to win it there, Ethan. It looks like Dan and I both noticed you had speed, top 10 speed at that, and you were fighting in the upper half of the field. But you made a very risky call, one that turned out to be the winning call, staying out and getting those final 30-plus laps. A lot of things did go your way there with those yellow flags. I can imagine you definitely wanted to keep it pacing for a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I knew once we had that like little 4 to 5 lap run in the middle of all of that, and we were able to maintain with Brian, we definitely had a shot at staying up front. But yeah, no, everything just went our way tonight. For once, we've had 2 back-to-back top 10s or 7th place finishes, one at IRP, and then one at Watkins Glen, and now we're sitting in victory lane. And I give all the thanks to Andrew. He worked his ass off to build these things week in, week out. And he does an amazing job. Q set was great this week. I missed the lap to probably put us in top 5 or even close to pole. But yeah, I'm happy. We got the points. We're solidly in the top 20 now, I think, and we just got to look forward to Rockingham and Homestead.
Hey, Ethan, it's Dan here. Just want to congratulate you on your win tonight. And I want to talk about going through those final restarts. What were those restarts like? Just trying to manage them at the end, especially when you knew you had the fresher tires behind you. But it seemed like after we got caution after caution after caution, it seemed like you were getting pretty confident that you could hang on to this thing.
Yeah, no, those restarts were tough. When we have like, I think, I don't know, 7 or 8 in a row. You have such a small box here with the restart zone that you can only change it up so much. And on that last restart, I thought Mercury got me, but we were able to hold on through 1 and 2 and set sail from there. Definitely the 4 people staying out on the older tires with us helped a lot those first couple. And yeah, no, we definitely pulled a strategy move tonight.
For sure, for sure. And one more question before I let you go. You did come in 8 points above the cut line, and with this win tonight, you're definitely going to fly up the standings for sure. And it must feel good having this result, especially going to the last 2 races. I know you got some really good tracks coming up ahead for you.
Oh yeah, Rockingham was definitely one of my favorite intermediates, I guess you could call it. And then Homestead. Hopefully we can rip the fence and not kill the tires, but we'll see how that goes. Even though I'm sure we'll probably be right around the white line to save them. But if we are able to run the fence, you'll definitely see me up there.
Absolutely. Well, want to congratulate you again on the win tonight and give you any final shout outs if you have any.
Thank you, and just sending a shout out to the team. They work hard. I had 3 people on my bots tonight, guiding me through all this. Dustin, Julian, and Andrew. They kept me calm in those final restarts.
Well, congratulations once again. Best of luck at the Rock and best of luck with the rest of the season.
All right, thank you so much.
That is Ethan Lane with the race victory here tonight. And now we'll segue over here to our second place finisher. He started on the pole, dominated this race, looked to have the fastest machine out here in Milwaukee, but brings home P2. Brian, it was a tough race out there tonight, but talk us through your race.
Man, really felt good about qualifying on the pole there. Thought I had the strategy right. I think I played that about as well as I could. Just knew how strong the undercut was going to be. Kind of had a ballpark number of when I wanted to pit, and then once you get closer, kind of get a vibe of what's going on, people around you and everything. So, yeah, thought I played that perfectly, and everything was going to cycle out exactly how I wanted to. Then we just got that caution there, and I don't know. I guess I didn't expect the heat cycled tires to hold up as well as they did. But unfortunately they did. Just couldn't quite get to Ethan. Got around everybody else, but man, the advantage you have with clean air, even if you have a little bit older tires, especially after the heat cycle, it just wasn't enough. So second place it is.
I mean, you're still gonna be happy about the run because you all, I don't know, it's not gonna be quite. You might be able to take the points lead after tonight. We'll see how the other split finish, but for right now, you must be feeling good about these final two races. Pretty much not quite, but pretty much all but locked into the Contender Series. Just it's been a heck of a season for you. You got the win at the Glen. You've been knocking off some good finishes, and I want to throw out this little fact for you. You are the only driver in the field that has had 0 incidents every single race. So you've been keeping it clean out there.
I guess not to toot my own horn, but at the same time, I'll toot it here. I'd like to think I'm a fairly clean driver. Wanted to keep it that way after the Glen. I know there's some easy X's you can pick up there, but yeah, I mean, fortunately, I was in the caution free split for IRP, so that was a great race. Chicagoland, I didn't really get involved in a wreck per se, but just kind of kept it clean. Didn't get the finish I wanted to, but got no X's from there, and I guess I was ahead of a lot of the chaos tonight. I really haven't gotten a chance to comb through the replay yet, but at least I was ahead of everything. Nothing quite happened to me tonight, but yeah, you know what? Honestly, that's I don't know. I think that might be a bigger flex than people might realize. I'll take pride in that.
Definitely something you should take pride in, being the cleanest driver out here. Give you the All-State Good Hands driver of the race, or probably of the whole season, let's say. But going to the final two races, what's the outlook? You've got plenty of points in your back pocket. Just how are we going to take these next two races? It seems like you're right on the edge of clinching a contender spot. How do we attack the next two?
Rockingham's pretty fun. I remember running some C Opens back in the winter earlier this year, and it was pretty good. It was pretty racy. Some people might expect you just park on the top maybe the whole time, but I think we'll be able to move around a little bit. We got 120 laps too, so even though it's the same length as Milwaukee here, we're running a little more laps. So I don't know. Maybe that'll encourage some more green flag running, but yeah, I like Milwaukee, and Homestead will just hopefully we're mathematically locked in going to Homestead. I know I was the same way with Homestead last year, but still wanted to run as well as I could. Homestead's usually not one of my good tracks, so I always try to prep for that race, regardless of the situation that I'm in. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm going away here this week, and I know we got a even longer time until the next race. Normally it's 2 weeks, but 3 weeks until our next race. So time for a little rest and relaxation here in the meantime.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the second place tonight. I know you wanted more, but still a great result, great points. Anybody you want to thank?
Yeah, just want to give a big thanks to all the boys over at NFR, Jarrett Liebert, Michael Frisch, Dave Schulthouse, Blake McCandless, Carson Bowers, Max, Blaze, all the boys, Jarrett building the setups. Really, really appreciate all the work they do. As I always like to say on these interviews, they make my job a lot easier. I just go out and drive the car. They do a lot of the work behind the scenes. So always want to give the credit to them. Race EPI, Elite Performance Industries, Bar Visuals, and then want to give an extra thank you this week to a few extra partners I wanted to bring on board. Sebeka Bail Bonds, J.A. Fisher Trucking, Pacioli Plumbing Services, What's on Tap, Gate Fitness, and the Coast to Coast Sim Racing League, powered by the Fars Tour.
Love to hear. Love all the support. Brian, thanks for your time once again, and best luck at the Rock.
Thank you, guys.
That is Brian Mercurio with second place, and David, I'll shout at him. Congrats on the third place run, and we'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, unfortunately, not going to get a word tonight from the man who came home in third in Michael Bumgardner. But whatever the case, what a great race that was here, Dan, from start to finish. These drivers are putting their all new, working their tails off from the beginning to end. And while we, of course, started with that opening run of green flag action, that's not really how things ended, admittedly. But we still saw some great work from all the drivers. Brian Mercurio, again, showing his worth as a driver in a Contender Series. Don't expect him to be absent for the next wave of action. I think he's going to be one of the most competitive drivers when we get to Contender and those top 20 move on. But Ethan Lane, what a win. He was completely disadvantaged the entire time. With the way he worked strategy, everything fell his way, but he did a great job even in that circumstance. So it was a very commendable effort, all things considered, and I think everyone who made it did a great job at that. And with that being said, Dan, you got any final thoughts for us?
Pretty much all I got to say is what a fun race. What a great race here at Milwaukee. Definitely a much better product than we saw last year. It's actually surprising. Like, we were both definitely surprised to see the groove get to widen out a little bit. Got to see guys running multiple lanes. And we got to see a lot more side-by-side racing than everyone just hugging the white line right around the bottom. And then we have the usual wreck fest here at the end of these things where people are just trying to get everything they can get on a very narrow restarts where everyone's fighting for the bottom, trying to throw it 3 and 4 wide with how wide the track is on the straightaways, but gets really narrow in the corners. But overall, I enjoyed the racing tonight. It was a lot of fun, but like I said, got a little too messy there at the end. But congratulations to Ethan Lane. What a great strategy call, and he did a good job hanging on all those restarts. And is definitely going to carry this momentum to one of his favorite tracks at Rockingham in a little, I guess, 3 weeks' time. That's news to me. So I guess we're going to have a little bit of a break then. We'll be back for the final 2 races of the season. I can't believe another Road to Pro season is getting close, coming to an end. And it's going to be a great fight to see who's going to make this top 20.
So close to the very end of our Road to Pro Championship in 2024, and it's been a wonderful ride. Rockingham, Homestead, that's all that remains, and hopefully Kenneth and the gang will bring you back with exciting coverage for the next few weeks. It's been a great honor to be here again in the booth with you, Dan, and another great race at that. Fantastic performances from everyone, and viewers, if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel here at FTN Broadcasting. The Highline Racing League broadcast just started. I'll be on the call there. I'll switch over to the feed, and if you enjoy what you're seeing right now and all the great racing we've had tonight, I'm just getting started. I'll be with you all night here on FTN as the Highline Racing League heads to Nashville Super Speedway for their second race of the season. From David Kreutz, producing and commentating alongside our driver analyst Daniel Falkingham, we thank you for tuning in to Road to Pro coverage for race 12 of 2024 from the virtual Nashville Super Speedway. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's event, and we hope you have a fantastic night.